Good night, everybody. This is Tuesday. It is March 29th, 2018. It's 4:30 p.m. We're in the Thomas J. Smith Council Chambers. This is a work session tonight. Obviously, yesterday was a holiday, so we're having the work session tonight. We'll be rolling downhill tonight as well. How you doing, Mr. Furneaux? We have 4 Mayor's Awards. Looking forward to that. Also, several proclamations, Juneteenth and Flag Day. We have a presentation from the Elks Lodge. That's going to be awesome. And number 4, public hearing, consideration of plans and specs for the 2018 Patterson Street Erosion Repair Project. Jess.
How's it going? Good. Eric has some slides for me, but I'll kind of give you the quick overview. Out on Patterson Street, we had a section of that street that was inaccessible due to erosion issues caused by some severe rains back in fall of 16, I believe. Yeah, there's the pictures of it. Basically, when we discovered that, we had to close the road. It's still accessible to all the residents, but it makes emergency responding difficult. So this project basically aims to fix that area and open the street back up. Next slide. We initially looked at 3 different options, the first of which was a retaining wall. Gabion baskets we looked at as well. They were roughly the same cost. What we finally decided on was purchasing the property and establishing just a fill slope there. It ended up being about $100,000 less than the other 2 options. So we brought that to your guys' attention back when we were purchasing the property, and now we're following up with the project. So, summary for the project, it's $85,000. We are funding that out of miscellaneous road funds. We'll be bidding and letting the project in June, and then we hope to have everything started and completed this year. So start in July and then finish sometime this fall. We're leaving the completion date somewhat open, giving them a little bit of leeway in hopes of getting favorable pricing that way.
What do you expect for maintenance on that, Jess?
It'll just be a grass slope. I mean, before it was grown up in trees and things of that nature, but at the most you'd be mowing it. Any other questions?
Council? No. We've already been here. All righty. Thank you, sir. Number 5 is a public hearing, consideration of plans and specs for the 2018 Public Works Roof Replacement Project. Jesse?
Yeah. So we have been experiencing roof leaks in the last 5 years or so. Some of those were under warranty, but here recently in the last 2 to 3 they have not been. We've been fixing them as they come up, but the amount at which we discover roof leaks is increasing, causing us to seek this repair. The existing roof, you can see there, there's actually rubber under that rock, which makes finding a leak sometimes problematic. You gotta move the rock around and look for where the rubber is separated. We'll be replacing all the rock and rubber with a TPO membrane fully adhered to the existing structure under it. So it'll carry a 15-year warranty, and it's pretty good stuff.
So with the white membrane, you don't put the rock on top?
No.
Right.
A lot of the roof systems now are going to fully adhered, so you basically glue it to kind of a dense board underneath. It gets you hail warranty and everything like that, but you glue it rather than weighting it down with rock. When you weight it down with that rock, a lot of times around roof penetrations and the sides of the roofs, that rubber will tend to stretch on you and tear in those types of places. So,
You guys good? We've been here too. Okay. Thank you, sir. Number 6, consideration of plans and specs for the 2018 1106 Washington Street Drainage Improvement. Just stay right there, Jess. Just stay right there.
I will. 1106 Washington was the former Dresser Ran site. I know probably most of you have seen that now, where it's more of a pond than it is a field. We're looking to remedy that. We're going to regrade that area and then set a drainage structure so it captures all the water and funnels it into the arch there that's nearby. So, next one. The timelines on all these projects are all the same. They're all smaller projects, but we're, again, being somewhat lenient on the period of performance in hopes of getting better bids. Engineer's estimate for this one is $24,000 roughly. And again, timeframe's the same.
Question? Okay,
All right, thank you.
thank you.
Thanks.
I'm done now.
Number 7, motion for final adoption of an ordinance creating Chapter 163A junk vehicles for the Code of Ordinances of the City of Burlington, Iowa. Mr. Tislin, anything?
No changes from previous readings. Again, just trying to clearly lay out the abatement process, which wasn't defined in the nuisance code. This is an existing section or was an existing section under 163, and it pulls it out to its own section to have better definitions and notification process.
You guys good on that?
I'm good.
Yes.
Peanut butter? Okay, number 8, motion for preliminary adoption of the second reading of an ordinance repealing Chapter 122 peddlers, solicitors, and transit merchants, and creating a new Chapter 122 peddlers, I love saying it like that, solicitors, mobile food vendors, and transit merchants.
No changes again. This primarily adds in the definition of what a mobile food vendor is. We're getting more of those requests, and then separates that out from peddlers in that they apply once a year for their general application, and then each site, they submit a new map for those sites.
Right on. You guys good with that?
Yes.
Man, I'll tell you. Number 9, resolution approving final plat of 16th edition to Flint Ridge Business Park subdivision. Mr. Teague.
This is a one-lot subdivision where the indoor sports facility is looking to be located across from the Recplex. Currently, that's all part of the business park property, so this will actually subdivide that off and then also create Lot A, which would be a future street right-of-way with the project the city's looking to apply for a RISE grant for. So the approximate location again there would be, the red would be the one lot, and then the yellow would be the future right-of-way with that RISE grant.
You guys, again, we've seen all of this before. Questions?
No question on my part.
Peanut butter? Okay. Thank you, sir. Number 10, resolution awarding contract for the 2018 Mount Pleasant Street Bridge project. Mr. Tislin?
I don't have info on that one.
Oh, okay, Jess. Somebody, please.
Yeah, I can talk about this one. We received bids on the Mount Pleasant Street Bridge project. They were pretty favorable, 4.3 million. I don't remember the exact number, but quite a bit under what we had
Yes.
Yeah.
had anticipated, or
4,086,000.
86.
86,000. The estimate was 4.3. My bad. Too many numbers. So, yeah, there was the spread, and we're recommending award to the low bid Kramer and Associates. They're out of Des Moines area, and they're a fairly reputable contractor, so with your guys' approval, we can proceed with awarding to them and get things rolling.
Council,
Looks good.
Let's do it.
let's get it rolling. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jess. Before we go on any further, we're going to take a quick halftime break. We bought Sturzings last week to prove to everybody that they were still good. Passed around everybody except for me. So I'm going to open these up here in a minute. I'm going to eat them. You're not going to get any. I just wanted to make sure that I
I set
documented
them
that
over
for
there
you.
for everybody to have access
Anyways,
to.
also, I just wanted the people to recognize, because she won't toot her own horn, but we also, we have an author on the council, so people that wear many hats, so those that are watching, maybe when this book comes out, you can get your copy from somebody famous, but it's called Chip Stolen Shelter Dog. And that cute, can you get close up on that stuff? Okay, probably not, I'm holding it, you might get my face, but very good, very awesome, and I thought,
And the proceeds will go to the Des Moines County Animal Shelter.
Couldn't go to a better place.
It's about a dog that was actually stolen from there.
doesn't get any better than that. So you can only get that here in Burlington. You'll never get that in West Burlington. Let's keep it moving, guys. I'll be hearing from Hans tonight. Now on the consent agenda, number one is resolution approving nuisance abatements for various properties. You guys good?
Yep.
Number two is resolution approving installation of hidden entrance sign in front of 1631 Agency Street for eastbound traffic.
Jesse, do you have anything on this sign?
I know of it.
It's in the packet there, I think. Picture of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the sign was requested there. Basically, we had looked for other examples for something like this. The only one that we picked up on is one that the county has nearby. It's off of, up by the golf course before you get to Highway 99, basically. So we went with the same type of sign just to keep consistency there. But it is somewhat of a hidden entrance, so we're recommending that it be installed.
Okay. Get the secrets revealed. Council, any questions?
No.
Thank you, sir. Number three is a resolution approving an engineering services agreement between the City of Burlington, Iowa and Beanstreet and Chem Inc. for sewer separation master planning. David?
Yeah, Nick was going to be here to cover this one, but I'll take it too. Basically, what we're looking for here is some help in going over our consent order negotiations. So V&K's had a lot of experience with this, and we're looking for their expertise to help us correct our path here.
Yeah, so as we've worked with
HR Green?
HR Green, and we've gotten a draft facility plan. The cost estimate on that was 90 million plus engineering fees.
Right around 100 million, yeah.
And as we looked at that and the timing that it was that they were discussing working on to try to get that into potentially done, we started looking at how are we going to negotiate with the DNR in a way that will be acceptable to them and fall within EPA guidelines. And we've done an awful lot of work with V&K at this, in comparable areas. They were one of the firms that had actually responded to our RFQ or on this overall project originally. And as we looked at how to move forward and working with the DNR, this is working with V&K looked like the best route moving forward to try to get that negotiation done. The next item that's on the agenda, working with is it Nymaster Law Firm, is in tandem with that. Nymaster, we work with Dustin Miller. From there, the reason that we've worked with him has been that well, he came back to, I don't know what his experience was in DC, but he had worked with as a lobbyist for the League of Cities, and then was the league's attorney, was part of their team that had applied for and received grant funding from both the state and federal level for looking at nutrient trading programs and implementing a program on a statewide basis, and has developed an awful lot of contacts with the DNR, with the EPA, and other entities within that lobbying, within the stormwater lobbying network, including Farm Bureau. His ability to work on some of these modifications is very important, and they'll be working in tandem. We've had multiple conversations with both V&K and Dustin on how to proceed with this, and we think that having both of them on board with trying to implement some of the things that we've been doing is very important for us. We can't afford $110 million as the path for doing this next basin, and think that we aren't going to cripple our residents and keep and ourselves when it comes to trying to do other work within the community. And this, for us, this looks like the best path to move forward with that.
Right on. Council? I think you're getting a little too close to this company. You're calling them V&K now? What's all this?
V-String Chem, sure.
You guys good with that?
I think that's on their logo too.
All right, thank you.
Right on, right on.
Thank you.
Man, everybody wants so much money for stuff. Okay, number 4 is a resolution approving an agreement between the City of Burlington and NIMASTER LLC for background research for sewer separation master planning.
And they built that at a not to exceed 13,000 for this scope of work. Part of what they're trying to do some background research for what have other communities been able to get successfully done. As we talked with VNK and them, again, trying to figure out who is best suited to do that. Dustin has a better background for doing the legal side, building the legal argument than what VNK does. Although VNK has done a lot of negotiations with the DNR, this background work will be very, very helpful with that process. And part of what we're trying to do is, we'd gotten some assistance from the EPA to do the integrated planning. That didn't work out as well as what we'd hoped, I think largely because EPA has a different framework. Even though they're talking about integrated planning, they're really focused on stormwater, best management practices for stormwater management.
Yeah, incorporating green infrastructure and that type of thing, so.
Which we see as a valuable piece, but we don't see that as a solution to everything, and that as far as their plan was concerned, that's really what their focus was.
And really what we're trying to do with the whole thing is we got some technical assistance from EPA, but they're leaving us a little bit short on what we need for a full integrated plan. We're hoping by incorporating the integrated plan, some of these things that Dustin has been working on, as well as Feenstra and Kim, we can come to the DNR and negotiate a much more favorable consent order that doesn't involve that $110 million in the next 10 to 30 years. So that's really what we're aiming for with this whole effort, so.
Makes sense to me. You guys good? You good? All right. We have a public hearing set for June 18th for consideration of plans and specs for the 2018 Central and Washington Bridge repairs. Stephanie's coming. And next we have discussion items, treasurer's report.
So the April's treasurer's report was in your packet. Our fund balance for the general fund is actually in the positive right now. We've got the large property taxes come in April. There'll be more transferred, obviously, to get it up to where it was last year. I mean, we're still thinking we're probably going to end same as last year, same as our beginning balance.
We may be a
Slight
tad
increase.
above.
So, other than that, there wasn't anything. We still kind of have our same accounts running, the ones that do have deficits, their timing, their grants, their projects. Once, we got bond proceeds in May, so some of the projects that have negatives in April, those bond proceeds are gonna be covering that. In this next month, you'll see those balances. And again, we don't do our second half transfers till June, so when we wrap up the end of the year is when we'll see everything getting finalized, so. Does anybody have any questions, or?
You didn't see any surprises or anything that's going to affect us maybe down the road stuff from the next?
No, not so far, so good, it's not
You know,
flooding.
the accounts that are trying to see how we can balance out parking lots, finishing up the demo project out at the park, whatever that.
Parkview.
Just making sure that we get those zeroed out as we hit the end of year. To some extent, we're using some of the savings that we had on bus purchases to try to make that wash out to where we don't have any negatives that we're not covering. One thing that will, depending on where we end up with the cost on the Parkview Care Center, we may carry a deficit over into the following year with the intent of selling those lots to cover it. I'd like not to have a deficit, but we only had so much savings from those bus purchases. The only concern I'll have is if we aren't able to, get it to a level where that deficit can be covered by the sale of the lots. If that's the case, then we'll have to look at a general fund transfer to make it happen. I don't think we'll be there, but that's one I think the account that's left that we're kind of watching. We'd already mentioned the parking. Our parking fund is one that we may have a potential
Bigger
issue with
transfer.
as we close.
But that's it, though? Just the,
Those two are the ones that, are the three that I can think of where we're dealing with issues.
yeah.
The others, we will have deficits with, like the Mazel, but that's an ongoing project, and we'll get funded when we go into long-term financing on the construction.
Right on. You guys good?
Yep.
Yes.
All right. Council chamber podium.
This is one that we had a request for consideration on what to do with our council chamber podium. I think it's in the back corner.
Yes,
So Joanne, you had what
Thank
was your
you.
request that you had to
yeah.
bring?
Well, Jim invited me to
I'm
speak
sorry,
this.
she didn't give her name.
Oh, I'm
And
sorry.
And I want to know where you live.
Joanne Bauer, 2523 Sunnyside Avenue in Burlington, Iowa, 52601.
What can we do for you today?
Yes, well, the podium that you have replaced, the one over there, is dedicated to my cousin, Tom Daly. My maiden name is Daly. So I would like to have the opportunity to take that off your hands and keep it in the family that way, since it was dedicated. Tom Daly, I don't know if any of you know who Tom Daly was. Annie does, I think, because she's his fourth cousin, or Miss Wilson is her fourth cousin. But Tom Daly was a state senator in Burlington for Des Moines County. He was very well known. He was an attorney. He practiced law with my dad and my uncle, Daly, and Daly. And a lot of people of this generation don't know Tom, but back in the day, he was very well known and very liked, and people really respected Tom a lot, and he was a good Democrat on top of it, so.
Back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day. So he was my godfather also, so I thought it would be kind of fun if I could keep that in the family, unless you have other plans for it, if you were just gonna put it in storage, I'd rather have it.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what the deal was, but when it comes to something like that, me personally, if it's not going to go inside someplace where behind glass, then we're better for that to go than to family, where
Especially, yeah, it's
where that has some
dedicated to the
meaning.
family, so.
And I don't want to step on, I don't want anybody stepping on me in 50 years saying, that was Shane McCampbell's pencil, let's throw it in the trash. Well, nobody's going to do that, but anyway.
Well, this one isn't dedicated yet, so maybe you'll get your name on it.
Trust me, the carpet, when they get ready to pull it, that's what they're going to do.
Oh, okay,
But I don't have any problem whatsoever.
all right.
I'm glad to see that it's going someplace where it's going to be appreciated as well.
I'd be cool with that.
I'm fine with that. Would the Heritage Society ever want it, Heritage Center ever want it, do a,
I was thinking of donating it to them maybe, but I, first of all, would have to inquire to see if they're gonna, if they ever do a display on
Yeah.
state senators or
so
anything
that's an
like that.
idea. You could have it and then have it on loan with
Yeah.
with your nameplate on it or
Yeah.
something as your family heirloom. I don't know, just an idea.
Well, we have already given the desk, my original desk that my father used in the law office, to the director. It's in their office. It's beautiful. It's an old Leopold desk, so
Cool.
we did that when they first opened. So if you don't have any problem with that, I won't pick it up tonight because unless somebody wants to carry it to my car.
It's not a piece of equipment we have to depreciate.
Well, that's what I was
or
gonna
anything
ask. That wouldn't have much of a value in terms of, just a monetary value for, it's more
Sentiment.
sentiment and what the meaning is from the dedication.
Right.
So, is there any process that we need to go through on that? It seems like you'd want to at the least have a resolution on donating it to
Okay.
someone.
That way-
It seems like you'd want to have something
Okay.
where you're officially taking action on it. It's something from a staff perspective, we don't want to get in the center of a whole.
Right.
But no, that sounds right.
Okay, well, let me know if
Does
you
that
can.
seem right?
So we'd have a resolution, that way if someone had an issue with it, they could speak toward it.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh,
good.
thank you very much. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
All right. Garbage containers, number 3.
the last work session that we had this issue come up, we left with what appeared to be a consensus on using having the 3 different size containers at one price, and working on that to try to get something to where we could have a schedule to implement over at some point in the future. Since that time, I've had a couple of different council members who've done what-ifs on what could potentially be done differently than that, this final decision that was at the last work session. Given that the what-ifs didn't match what we had thought was the desire for where the council wanted to head, we decided that should come back to the council for some further discussion and see what it is that you would like to have done, or what additional questions you have or options you wanted to have that were considered.
Yeah, I'll plead guilty. I was one of the what-ifs. I know we talked about the 3 cans, but I guess I didn't realize we had discussed the price yet. I thought we were discussing the option of having 3 cans and then work on how we would implement that. So my concern is definitely, on one hand, I used to spend $3-4 a week on trash tags. So the 65-gallon can, even if you charge me $4 or $5 a month for it, I'd be saving money. So I could see where the volume user would save money, but I would like us to discuss a little bit about how do the people that don't need the bigger can, that they did the 35, how do we lessen that cost to them so it's more of a user charge? I don't think it's fair that it's $225 lump sum for everybody, whatever can you use, because then it's not user driven. And if we're going to do something like this, it ought to be user driven.
I'll tell
That's
you
just
what.
my opinion.
I was still waiting to hear back from other people, and as I'm getting more information in, one of the thoughts is that it seems like we're punishing those that use little trash, and we have a large number of people in this community that they're not filling up a trash can. They're not filling up the 35 once a week, and what about them? We're going to charge the same amount for somebody that's not filling up a trash can once a week for those that are filling up a great big huge busting over. I mean,
I think we got work to do on it.
I agree. One of the top complaints that I'm getting from citizens is, I'm generating so little trash, and you want to punish me more, and I think we need to discuss it more and be sensitive to the needs of those people that are very minimal users, and also to take a look at those that are disabled. They're also very worried and upset.
I want to bring this up too. I know you got something to say. I want to bring this up too, though, is I also received an email from some people that they said, and I understand this. They said, well, we sent out a survey, and we didn't send out to everybody. And even if the people don't respond, they said at least it ought to be on fair ground that everybody gets it, or what's the point of a survey? And I'll be honest with you, I agree with that too. We're supposed to be doing this for the community, and when we don't get, a full survey out, and let me make it perfect clear, I'm not blaming city staff or anything like that, saying anybody dropped the ball. I'm saying that, yeah, there's still people that said, I didn't even get a chance to say anything, and I never got a survey. So
Yeah.
I think in that regard, what I'm getting more is, and I always expect a little pushback because people don't like change, so I'm used to that. I'm just telling you guys, people don't like change, That being said, I'm getting a lot of pushback from people that are just saying, oh, we're just not comfortable with this, and I'm getting more of that than anything else.
Well, we definitely have a need. I mean, we're one of the few communities around us that's not automated in some fashion. Sorry, Annie, I kind of jumped in.
No, you're fine, go ahead.
That it's not automated in some fashion, and I can definitely see the backside savings as far as work comp claims and not running through personnel and that type of thing. So I'd like to see us adopt a standard of a can, but now it's okay, how do we pay for them? Because the simple fact of the matter, they're going to cost a lot of money. And so that's what we need to work on. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Yeah, and as far as like the survey goes, the majority was against it. And so how do we address that? I mean, I'm all for making it more automated and, less stress on our people. But what do we do when we send out a survey and everyone says no? Or not everyone, but the majority says no.
You're right. I'm not sure we communicated it very, I don't want to say this wrong, but I'm not sure that we relayed why we're contemplating this change. We just kind of asked them, do you need a vehicle to put more trash in? And the majority said, no, I'm doing good in that arena. And I don't think we educated them about the workman comps issues, how when these guys retire from these jobs, they are broken up no less than an NFL football player. These guys are busted up. And
Sorry.
and we need to take a look at that. I'm not sure we've done a good job of communicating that to the public.
I want to say this, maybe we left out some little small intricacies of, but I thought it was pretty good. I thought the message went out. The Hawkeye did a pretty good job of covering it. They took lots of pictures. You get out crayon with it. The bottom line is that until something's actually going down, people see it in black and white, that's when you're going to get the pushback first and foremost. And two, I still have to agree with the lady. She said, I didn't even get a survey. What's the point of sending out a survey if I didn't get one? I get a chance to say what I got to say. And I understand where she's coming from, man. I understand where she's coming from. So to me,
Well, and I don't want to speak for Matt, but I will. He and I discussed it real quickly, and he said, well, I do bill pay. I didn't get if I got one, I didn't know it because I just threw it. They pay his bills online, and there's a lot of people that use bill pay. Did they get a survey? So I think we have and that might make the yes/no vote worse, better. We don't know. Obviously, there's some pushback though, and I think part of the pushback is cost. Part of the pushback that we saw in the comments is, well, I don't need a bigger can. And so if we have 60% of our constituents say they don't need that, well, we need to figure out a way that's done. And is that a good enough value to go to 65 and 95 gallon can? Is there good enough value to pay more? Because I can tell you right now, for a person, at least using personal experience, I would have saved $10 a month by going to 225 to a 65 gallon can. I was spending $3 to $4 a week on trash tags, and you never have them. So the convenience of it for a 65 or 95 may well be worth more than the 225, and that might be where we could recoup the dollars to replace all the cans. Or, do we adopt a standard and say, by this date, a year from now, everybody shall have this style of can, and we let them replace them on their own? I think there's an issue that way too.
I agree with you, John, and that's kind of how Davenport does it. They call it a pay-as-you-play. If you generate more waste, you pay a higher can fee, and that just seems fair to me and to some of the public that's communicating with me.
And we're doing that now, but it's with trash tags. What we're trying to do is figure out an automated deal, and the trash bags, my neighborhood, I understand the desire to get away from the trash bags for the community, because invariably there's a raccoon or a cat or something, dog, has gotten into a trash bag, and then everybody's picking up everybody's picking up their trash, after a couple of days. And unfortunately, not everybody picks up their stuff. So our city gets a rep of being a dirty city, and I'd sincerely like to eliminate that. So.
I just want to make it perfectly clear too. I'm all in on the trash cans. I want this thing to go through personally, but not because, not at the expense of just blowing off what everybody else says. So I do want people to know that. I do like the idea, but I'm not going to vote, yes, I want this just because I do. So we've got this week. We'd like to hear from you. I've already started getting some emails, and I'm sure all the rest of the council has as well. And we've got a meeting coming up. Come on down to the meeting. I know a lot of you only come down. We got heavy stuff. Well, this is heavy stuff to the trash haulers.
It would definitely be helpful to know, is it cost, is it size, is it both? So that we have a better idea of how to go forward. Because we do have some of those responses, but most of the emails that I'm getting are those two issues. It seems like it's a cost factor for the people that don't generate trash, and they're also the size factor. Like if you live on North Hill or South Hill with a bad alley, they're concerned about maneuvering the can. Now, if you're in a flat area, like say off Sunnyside, which is a pretty flat street, those in 95-gallon can, I've said this before in a meeting, my mom, who's in her 70s, she wheels that thing out there and wheels it back no problem, because with the wheel and handles, it is pretty easy to do so. But that's what it would be helpful to know. What's the big pushback? And is there a desire by those that use trash tags? Is there a desire to pay more for a can? So that's where I'm at.
So I guess what would our next step be is to come to some sort of consensus on what we want this to look like, or are we, how long is this conversation gonna go on for as far as?
It can milk out as.
Right, but
It depends on where you're going to go with this. Linda, you talked about wanting to see the potential for people to be able to set out the kitchenette bags. That's a different type of conversation than talking about the three size of containers. If you're talking about, if you had an agreement on a consensus, you want to go to the fully containerized system, then you can start to have a little bit of discussion about, we were committed to this, but we're trying to figure out what to do. What's the best type of pricing structure? Is it flat? Is it two-tier, 35, 65 one price, and 95 a higher price because you're trying to get people to go to the 65-gallon container? Is it three-tier? And what should be the right spread between them? And there's no magic to those that calculation. You can look across communities. Don had shared some information. I think it's Muscatine is a flat pricing structure, and you have others that.
I like the three-tier.
Who's the other one you sent? Dubuque, that had the.
No bag. No bag.
Sorry, Don, I feel like we're making you do a bunch of extra work here. Sorry
Nope.
about that.
And I'm sorry I didn't get this printed out. It was
You're,
part of-
you're talking about.
I ran
what
out of time
was
before the
sent today.
4:30. Yeah.
Okay. There are a lot of issues with this program. A lot of questions, more questions than answers. I took a couple hours off today, and I called down to the plant, and I asked Julie if she'd make 2 calls, one to Davenport, because I know I've heard a lot of positive comments about Davenport, and Muscatine. Both of them give the choice of size of can. And Muscatine has a flat rate for everybody, and Davenport has a tiered program. Davenport allows bag. You have that special party, you choose the right size can for your normal day-to-day, week-to-week, and then suddenly you have a big gathering, you got extra trash, what are you supposed to do with it? And so they have a program that they said you can put a bag out with a $4 trash tag. So Muscatine, my recollection is they do not allow bags extra. So I don't really know what they do if you have extra trash that goes beyond your container. But what I asked her to do was to contact both cities, and I said, see if they've got an estimate of what percentage of their customers have this size can, that size can. I was surprised. Davenport, the person replied and said that probably about 15% have the 35-gallon can.
Their default is the 65 if you don't ask for it.
And actually, both programs push 65 as the core. In both cases, I think they probably sent out a survey. Since you're talking about different size cans, then you've got to survey all your customers. And the default size is the 65. And if you don't return your survey, you get a 65. Both of them charge a fee if you wish to change out the size of the can that you start with.
Up or down?
35, you go down, you go up, it's something like $35 to change out. Davenport people said, whatever you do, push your council to go for one size can to 65, because we've got a guy that works at least 6 hours or 6 hours a week.
Sorry about that.
Got a large storage facility that got all these different size cans, and he spends at least 6 hours a week fixing the carts, exchanging carts. There's the administrative, then you gotta deal with the water company and say, change the rates to the cart for this house. And of course, people pay money, that's why they ask a fee to change it out. Muscatine, they didn't really have a lot to say other than 65 is their core container size. So both of those communities are fully automated, meaning they have the truck that has the claw that comes out and grabs the can. So,
I know we wanted to get away from the bags, but I do like the idea that if on a particular week you do generate extra trash, you can put a bag out, because one of the things we wanted to deal with is what do we do with people that generate extra trash? Does it just get
Right.
piled up on their porch week after week after week?
Well,
They
and
have a way to dispense it at
excuse
least.
me, I like the idea of a higher, the trash tag can play two different roles. I mean, if you want to set it higher than what it is now, then you encourage people to make sure they get the right size can.
And the
And you
recycle.
reduce the number of bags that are being set out.
Yep.
Because the more bags you set out, the more opportunities you have for nuisances. On the other hand, maybe you'd say, well, gee, we don't want to punish them for having extra trash for a party, so just make it $2 and leave it that way.
And Don, could you share that we have, what, about 5% of our citizens that due to handicap or other needs do set out a bag?
Well, when I ask my guys, I said, what percentage of your customers set out bags and bags only? They'll say somewhere between 10 and 15%.
Okay, I thought it
The
was lower than that.
reason, we don't know. I think that some of it has to do with people don't like to make 2 round trips.
Small kitchen
They
bags?
can't, yes.
Just I'm just talking about bags.
Just bags in general.
Yeah, as far as kitchenette type size bags, I don't know. But people don't want to make 2 round trips. That's why I think a lot of people don't curbside recycle. And curbside recycling, if you've got a terraced property, carrying recyclables down a terraced property would make it difficult.
And Don, you or somebody told me the story of somebody was disabled so they can get into their car, but they can't wheel a cart down to the curb, but they could drop their little bag of trash
That's right.
out the window. So it is a small minority, but we do want to be sensitive to their needs and try to find a workable solution for these people.
Right. We have about a dozen people, according to my drivers, that we actually will go up to the garage and they'll set their trash out in a can or bag, since we allow bags, but if it's in the can, we ask them to bag it, seal it, and then they can just walk up, make 1 round trip, save time.
That's nice. That's really nice. Your
take it
staff's
out.
doing that.
But we have about a dozen people that do that. Some communities, if you're going to do that, they require you to get a doctor's form filled out to say that, you have a physical need where you need that. But most people who are physically challenged for one reason or other, oftentimes, I'm not going to say all the time, oftentimes have somebody else that lives with them, and that person can bring the can out, or the cart in this case, the wheeled cart.
Look, I think the bottom line is, for me personally, I want to wait and see what type of more input that we get on this. But what we need to do is, we need to see if we're going to actually commit to this trash can, to the new trash can setup or not. You know what I'm saying? Working out all the details and the bugs that's going to come with it. But the bottom line is, are we going to commit to this, or is there something that we can't do? We need to make that decision so we're not bouncing Don all
Well-
around. And
Well, I think we're committed to working on it, but I can't say I'm committed to it until we have some more answers.
well, we're gonna have
Yeah, we're
those.
gonna
I would
get
like to
those.
think by
Yeah.
by
Well,
next week. So
I almost promise that the only feedback you are going to get is negative. So whatever you're expecting, generally speaking, it's gonna be no because this or this, which we know about 3 different reasons why people would say no, which would be cost, ability, and low waste. So I think those are the no's that we're gonna hear. And I think that's the majority of what we're gonna see, whether it's in our email or calls or letter to the editors or Facebook. So I guess I kinda wanna know are we going, it's like yes or no. Are we gonna do this or are we not? Cause we basically know how people feel.
Well,
I
that's a
don't know.
problem, because a
What-
lot
I
of people
guess
feel
what-
like we don't, because
Can I
of
ask
the
a quick
lack of
question of Dawn?
Yeah.
Dawn, what's, if you had to pick the primary driver for this, is it nuisance issues, workman comp, a combination of things?
Well, the reason I was looking at it was because of the wear and tear on the workers.
Okay.
And,
I'm not sure we've communicated that adequately to the public. I think they just want to.
well, I got
they
one
just think
response
we're
back
stirring
that
up
there's a
their
lot of
can
jobs
size.
out there that end up with sore backs, so that's just the job, the nature of the job. If you don't want to have sore back, don't take the job.
But we still gotta find someone to take the job. That's,
Yeah, we're
Right.
having
Well,
trouble.
they're gonna want somebody to take the job if their
Yeah.
trash is starting to pile up during a hot summer day, so, that's irrelevant. Here's the deal again. This is a work session, so we can't make the decision, but what we can do is, I guess, who's interested in pursuing this trash can deal as is, I guess, with the information that we do have, who's interested in moving forward on it? I guess that's what you're asking.
I mean, I guess my question to everyone else then is, what other information are you looking for?
I would like to see us come up with a tiered pricing
Okay.
and then bounce that out there and see what the response would be. And along with them, I do agree with moving the bag to a much higher price than where it's at now to encourage the 65. And maybe even we do something where we load the trash cans at the 3 sizes with trash and go down to the depot and we have people come down and wheel them around and see how they are. I think we could do a couple of things like that would give us some more input and then we could kind of decide where we're at. But I'm definitely not going to be for 3 different cans all at the same price.
Okay.
It should be a user-driven fee, and so I am interested in the cans. I think the cans are our best option going forward, and it's time for us to get along the lines with all the other communities around us, but I'm not comfortable with the standard fee for 3 cans. That's where I'm at.
I'm not comfortable with the standard fee either.
Okay.
I do have one more comment that I'd like to say is that your goal that was identified was consider the CART program, the larger container program, and how it would help reduce the nuisance and clean up the city. So you have to look, I think that you have to consider that in regards to, some people are gonna choose based on price, and even though they can't get it in that 1 can, it's cheaper and that's what they're going to go for. And they're gonna be cramming, and so you need to include a mechanism to encourage them to make the choice.
Right.
If you're hoping to help nuisances. That was your goal.
Yep, I was one of them voted for the goal, Don, so.
Hey, but just for
I
the
wanna
record
get
too, I wasn't going into this one on Burlington being a dirty town. That wasn't I was going in with it, trying to save on workers' comp, trying to save tax dollars and make an easier system moving forward. That's where I was right off the bat. And then whatever else had helped, was gonna clean up several things. I just wanted to state that. That's where I was right off the bat with trying to save taxpayer dollars, ultimately by saving money through less workers' comp claims, et cetera, and also being a benefit to the community.
I agree. All the other towns are on board, and I want Burlington to be progressive, and I want people to take those jobs. Right now, we're having a hard time filling them because they know we don't have the automated equipment, and they know they're gonna be busted up without an NFL football player's salary to
Well,
boot.
one thing's for sure, they've heard all the bad things about the job.
They have, and there is a lot of fear, and I like John's idea of letting them actually see what the cans look like and the mobility and ease of using them, because there is a lot of fears and people don't understand that.
And I think there is a concern by people that these things are big, bulky, heavy monstrosities, and they're not. Well, with the wheels and they
Oh, I
handle,
know.
they're easy to wheel around.
Wheels.
It's a lot better than what I have now.
Yeah, it's better when like I said, even if you said the 65 or the 95 gallon and you're gonna charge me, now I'm not saying this is the amount, but if you're saying you're gonna charge me X amount more money, I mean, with the trash tag program, I'd still save bucks. So I just think it ought to be a user-driven fee.
Yeah, that's fair to say. I
So,
think.
but what that fee is, we need to work on and figure it out.
And see, I was gonna ask you, I wish we had a couple of different, like we do at budget season, a couple of different, what's the word I'm looking for? You know what I'm trying to say?
Options?
Yes, James.
So, I mean, off the cuff, when I was sitting in the airport, just trying to do some estimates, if you're trying to keep the 35-gallon container the same price, the two things that you're trying to overcome is the $500,000 cost or so to implement the program, probably a little bit more than $500,000. $220,000 of tag revenue that's pretty much going to be gone. And how do you make up that in a tiered program if you're trying to keep your 35-gallon container customers the same? Now, if we could get the majority of folks to go at the 65-gallon, that would have an impact on that. But if you look at and that's part of what I sent with the email, we have 25% of the community who uses typically more than the standard 30-gallon container right now?
No more than 25%.
No more
It
than-
might be less than 20% that use more, or that purchase a tag on a fairly regular basis.
So you're looking at 20 to 25%. If you create a price structure that incentivizes too much the 35-gallon container, you're only going to have about 25% are going to go with the larger size. So if you try to put in a price structure that, with that kind of a thought in mind, your 65-gallon would probably be, if your 35 gallons in that $14 range, your 65 would have to be in a $25 range, and your 95-gallon in a $30 range. And that's just kind of off the cuff.
Sure.
Making some estimates of what you could potentially see for some price variances. I haven't seen any communities that have had that big of a price variance.
Yeah.
Now, seeing a 35-gallon that's at, I don't know, $15.50 or $16, then the 65 at even 19, and then the 95 at 22, something like that, for a spread would be more realistic.
Are
in
you
terms
talking
of-
about the trash portion only, or are you talking about recycling included?
That's inclusive.
Recycling
The
fee?
overall fee. If you see a difference like that, that would be it would be comparable to what you see in a lot of other communities for a variance between container sizes. And I think you can make a system work with that kind of a variance. And I think that you can help to get some people to go who, if you have too big of a variance, who would be going with the 35-gallon container, be willing to go
Right.
more up to that 65-gallon container. I don't know what the number is going to be, but you're trying to guess, when it comes to that, you're trying to guess how people will change, modify behavior. Something that I don't know where it plays in is with our tag system. Right now, we have a lot of folks who do generate a lot of garbage that instead of using tags, will go with Levine or someone else to have a 90-gallon container out. And even though they have to pay the fee for our program anyway.
Base program.
For the base program, it's, for an example, a family like ours would be.
I was just going to ask you, how many tags are you using?
We use 3 tags a week. It would be cheaper to go with Levine's for our service than what we pay in tags. And the majority of folks who are using that volume are just going with a a Levine or someone else and using their 90-gallon container and avoiding the program. And I think that's part of why you are seeing probably very few people who are setting out multiple bags on a weekly basis.
Why don't we just call Levine's and call her good?
And
You know, I'm just saying, that's something that we had looked at
that's
a
an
while
option
ago,
that was thrown out 6 years ago when we were
Yeah.
first.
I tried to point out all the things that the solid waste department does that's included in the fee. And one thing that the private haulers are doing is they're providing trash service, and that's what they provide. They don't do the citywide cleanup. They don't pick up the leaves in the spring and the fall. You're not allowing customers to go to the landfill and get rid of wood waste, that if they're willing to haul it free of charge. I'm not really sure if they would charge extra money when they get a call from the public to go pick up a dead deer here, or a raccoon there, or a cat there, you know, those types of things that the guys do.
If you're to go to a situation like that, you can bid out a service like that. And if you're really wanting to, that's something that could be done.
Yeah.
Something that Matt mentioned was thinking about the idea of doing away with the spring cleanup and
Yeah,
charging
I
a
can see that
fee
get
for
rid.
people to have a special curbside pickup. He mentioned that Davenport does that. Well, I mean, that's something you could consider theoretically with an outside hauler, because they're not going to do the spring cleanup. In other communities where we've had outside haulers, they had a separate bid package on grass clippings, yard waste. And it would be an additional fee for service that would be outside of the base collection fee. And I think if you're going that route, those are the kind of things that you'd have to be talking about looking at doing as part of that change. And that's fine to do, but you have to be thinking about what are those other consequences, and what's the relative value for them. And you're gonna get all kinds of different feedback from folks as to which is more important.
You know, the bottom line is we need to look at what's gonna be the end game on some of these decisions, and is it going to be too much that some of the citizens can bear? And I do want to, since we're here looking at trash, I do think it's something that we ought to look at is it time to get out of the trash game? And I'm serious. I think it's something that, you know, either we've got to start saving back, so we need to start looking at, and I know somebody said, well, you know, West Burlington's already doing it. Again, you can't compare Burlington to all other communities. We've got Burlington set up, it's an old community,
Well,
you know,
they're a
so it's
fraction of our size too.
a completely different deal. That being said, maybe it's time that we start really seriously looking at getting that while we're looking at these trash cans. Maybe it's something that we can't handle. Maybe down the road, it's just gonna cause more problems.
Well, yeah, because the problem is that the cost is the capital outlay to replace the cans. That's, where do you come up with that money?
People start stealing cans and stuff, and I know, you know, we set up with the chips and all of that stuff. I mean, and we got somebody, we gotta hire somebody to do be the chip reader, you know, on garbage cans. I mean, I'll tell you, I know a real easy fix for this. We let somebody else do it, and I hate to say goodbye to spring cleaning. I love it the most. I save stuff just for spring cleaning.
Yeah, some communities, though, what they do is a central drop-off point for spring cleaning. Rather than have people out, they gotta go borrow a buddy's truck and they take the stuff down, and you have a 2-week period. Maybe that's something that we could do.
Maybe we can get rid of our equipment and we can hang on to one truck.
I don't know.
Well, now's the time, I'm just saying, now's the time to get to the boogie, because otherwise, we're gonna roll around. This year's gonna go by quick, we're already halfway through.
Yeah.
And we'll be here at budget time next year, wonder what we gotta do with our fingers. So, how much are you guys committed to this, to these trash cans? No, let me ask you this. How committed are you to make a change on this trash program?
Committed.
Yeah.
Committed.
How far are you willing to go this year to get this party started? Because it's either or, really.
Well, I don't think you're gonna spend $500,000 for new trash cans and then the very next year go to a private contractor. So, I mean, that's pretty much Do we have to point that out? So, I mean, we could ask Don to go out and see if we could solicit some bids for private hauling. I think we'll find that might be difficult because of the size and scope. But I'm willing to look at it.
Who did we look at? Who was it last time?
We didn't look at anyone. I think
we did.
that
I
some
thought
of you council members had individual conversations with haulers.
Okay, I thought we looked at it as a group.
We talked about the idea of potentially going out, and that ended up getting dropped when you had some at least one council member who said they talked with one of the services that's one of the primary services that I think might not have had an interest or just raised some concerns about
I
the
think that's
viability of
correct.
that.
I thought Rinker did, and.
No, I'm sorry. This is from
Different
like
council?
5 years ago.
Okay.
And going off memory, I'm not going to remember exactly the answer, but whatever they got from it, that council member just didn't think it made sense to go and pursue that option at that time.
Because it's
But-
not as simple as keeping a piece of equipment either, because you're gonna have to have the staff if you did a spring cleanup once or twice a year. You're gonna have to have staff to run the truck to go pick that up.
I think
No, I'm
must-
saying spring cleanup will probably have to go. That's what
Yeah,
I'm
that's what I'm saying,
saying.
too.
It'll be bye-bye,
Leaves,
but I'm saying
okay.
we could still hang on to one
All right.
truck for.
Sorry, Jim, I
stuff.
interrupted. My
I was
fault.
going to say, if trying to do spring cleanup when you don't have a sanitation force to do it,
Can't be done.
you have communities that do that, and it's their public works department that spends several weeks that they take out of their busy part of, I mean, that's their busy season. You've now committed them, instead of doing streets and sewer work, now they're doing the city cleanup. And it's still a cost to the city, and it's a hidden cost. It's lost work that you don't get done. If you want to look at going out for services, that's fine, but you got to be serious about it, and you got to know that it has its own level of backlash that comes with it and difficulty of doing it. And you can go and look at other communities that have gone through the process. There have been communities that have gotten a lot of negative feelings from the public with that process, and others that have done it and moved forward with that outsourcing and been very successful with it.
More so
Just
than not.
know that it's not just an easy process to go through. If you go through an RFP process, you got to be serious about developing it, putting it out, and be wanting to move forward with, if you get a price that is acceptable, to move forward and do it. And you have a lot of lives that are on the line too, that are within our workforce, that you're having an impact on. So you need to be serious about what you're doing and have a good reason for why you're wanting to.
I still feel like that should be part of the conversation, though, as we move forward, trying to get information, because, I mean, how long are we gonna drag this out? We're gonna have to.
If you're gonna go that route, you need to go through a formal RFP and see what you get back for quotes. And then you have to be saying that you're willing to, if you have a competitive price, to outsource it.
Is the council okay with that? Because I am.
I'm not, for the simple fact that it would be eliminating jobs.
Maybe we could find another place for them, though, too.
You can do a process where you're saying, as part of that negotiation, you're trying to get them
Jobs
to,
for
a
Place.
first opportunity at least, for them. Now, not everyone who works in sanitation is working there because, I mean, you have a few folks who are there thinking, I mean, for either for benefits, which they're not gonna get on the private sector side, comparable. And that, that's a criticism of working for the government, but it's also something that people do come to us for. And they don't have a lot of folks come into there as a hope to get into other areas of the city. So for them, they've taken that on as a position for it's a stepping stone, and they don't have that if they transition to another employer. So not that can't be something that you think about and look at for something that can be done, but there are other things that impact why we have people who work for us.
Some good workers, too. I'd like to think that we could find even if that didn't go through, that even within the city, we could find a home for them internally. But let's go back to, let me deal on this end first. Where are you guys at on that? Would you guys be okay with going forward with an RFP? Even looking into, or is that something that you guys don't want to even broach until we get?
I'm not super in love with the idea, simply because we lose the jobs and then also the spring cleanup and all those other things that I think we've, as a community, have come to look forward to and enjoy and use. And it keeps items out of the landfill, and I would hate to
But we
lose
have,
that.
man, I agree with you, Linda. By the same token, we have people right now that are saying that they won't pay another $2.25 to improve our trash program. So if that is the case, then how important is spring cleanup and the leaf and lawn removal? I don't know. You know, for $2.25 a month, it seems like a pretty good value to me, you know, to be able to retain those things and to improve our trash can. But we're having people, the one thing I'm having is they're screaming about price.
You're right, John. There's a lot of
So-
pushback, and that's why we're still having this conversation,
Right.
because we want to make sure that we are taking their concerns to heart and that we're educating ourselves and making the best decision in their interests. So that's why we're still here, debating it,
Right.
talking it out.
I've got one on moving forward. He's comfortable. You said you're not, or you
With
are
this
just not?
RFD thing.
Okay,
Oh,
okay.
we can look at it, but it's not my favorite choice.
Well, I mean, I'm not happy about any of this. I'd like
Well-
to just keep pedaling forward. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So, for those of you who are wanting to do that, like Jim said, it's a serious thing. As far as like, if we go out there and get bids, we have to, if it fits, we basically have to do that. Not like, oh, well, I don't like it anymore. I mean, it's like a serious time-consuming thing, especially for those companies to, make a decision and, figure out how much it's gonna cost and all this other stuff.
Is there cost,
It's a
Jim,
bid.
involved with
I mean, it's
getting
a
that bid
though, really.
process?
I mean,
It's a
like
serious
enforcing it.
time effort
Yeah.
that they're gonna have to make to put forward to respond to a proposal, see what, they're gonna have to put time into what kind of equipment would they need, personnel, I mean,
Well, they're gonna be
Well, we've
looking
got
at,
five
they're gonna be
bids.
looking
They're-
at the $500K to begin with too, because they're gonna have to
they're,
replace all the
they're gonna have to
trash
price that into whatever their
Yeah.
system is. They're gonna have to look at what is it gonna entail to do deliveries or do pickups here? They're gonna look at our maps, they're gonna have to see what do we have to do for, what level of service can we get done on, with how many people, how many vehicles? I mean, that takes some time when, not just the number of customers, but you have to look at where are the locations where you're picking up. What kind of time does it add when you're doing the alley pickups versus all curbside? So it's a significant deal for someone to respond to a proposal. They're gonna put multiple hours into it, and if they don't think that you're serious about it, you're not gonna get much for responses.
I agree.
Well, I'm just saying, I don't know where exactly you guys want to go tonight or what you want to have finished by, or done by tonight, but to me, is it
Well,
going to take it away? I'm kind of satisfied because
I think if you're gonna look at the trash program, you need to look at all options, which is what you're saying.
Yeah, and I know that he's going to print in the Hawkeye tomorrow exactly what we talked about tonight, and that we're talking about exploring all options. It's going to get people talking and involved and sending emails and whatnot. So, I mean, I think we're going to have a lot better idea of really where the community is, where they want, how much they want to fight on it. But again, I'm not looking to get anybody out of jobs, any of that stuff. The bottom line is that things are going to continue to go up, the prices are getting more expensive, and we need to try to find a way where we can control price, still have a good product, and take care of the citizens. And that's what I'm trying to think moving forward. I believe that getting the trash cans, switching over to this process is going to help the city. I really do. I think it's going to be a benefit. But at that benefit, if people want to bark about, again, if we can't get it nailed down to the tiers or anything like that, then maybe we do need to look at something else, and maybe we need to look at it seriously and quit playing around with this, because again, it's not going to go down. No decision is going to get cheaper if we make it 2 years down the road.
No, but if this is the type of decision though that we need to make sure that's where we brought it up, is
Right
because
on.
this is the type of decision we need to make sure it's right. Because we know regardless of what we do, there's gonna be people upset.
Right on.
But we need to make sure that we don't look back 2 years from now and say, oh boy, we really screwed that up. And so that's why, if if we need to look at a private carrier, we should look at it and compare to what we do. Yes, it's a lot of effort, but it also could be a lot of income for a private carrier. So I think all options at this point in time, given the response from the surveys that did go out, is that, they're not happy with what we've got so far, so we need to keep working on it. And you've got my commitment, I'm committed to fixing the trash program. Now, what that is, I don't know, but I think we need to address it. And we need to go forward so we don't bounce the department around like a yo-yo, but that means looking at all options, for me.
James? To me, I want, now that we've got the chicken out, I'm ready to see what this next week brings us in this next coming meeting, to be honest with you, but I don't know what else you want to have in your grasp
How do we go
by tonight.
forward?
You can't leave this sitting out there for long. You have to have a decision, yes or no, of what you're doing, because it's not fair to people to leave that out as a what if. If you are moving forward, you have to be committed to really being serious about it. If going out for an RFP, if that's what you're looking at. If you do, you'd have to put in what are you trying to implement? I think that you'd want a sole source provider for the entire community. There are communities that allow anyone to pick up. You then have a dozen haulers that are covering the same territory. It works better from what I've seen with communities, the majority of them have done, when they've done that, you get some places it works out okay, other places realize that they're tearing up their streets doing it. You probably would be, I assume, asking them to provide a tiered pricing structure for three different sizes. I mean, you still have all those same issues. What are you telling them you want them to do? Are you letting them do you want them to have extra bag pickup or not? Are you wanting them to provide a pricing structure for extra pickups, like a special pickup that would be in place of citywide, where people are going to pay to have a certain volume picked up? Are you going to have them provide a price to pick up yard waste? What do you want them to do on it? It's not as there are a lot of different components that have to be part of that before you go out and ask them for information. First, you have to decide you want to do that.
Well, you don't know what the cost is until you put it out there. We don't know if it's competitive or not.
But they can't decide what they're going to
Sure.
price out until you decide what you want as part of it.
Well, I guess we would have to say whatever we plan to eliminate would be the fairest way to do that, to figure out what, apples to apples. We have to first then figure out exactly what.
What are you trying to implement? Are you
What-
trying
yeah.
to, I mean, it
Either
still
way.
doesn't do away with your base questions that you already had. You still need to know, do you want one pricing structure for 3 different sizes, or do you want a tiered system? And let them choose a tier, or are you trying to create some level of tier in it? And you're gonna make it hard for them to bid on if you create that piece in it. If you don't have it, what they'll have to be trying to figure out in a tiered system is going to be, what's my base cost of operations? And they're gonna price that into the 35 gallon. The 65 and 95, they're gonna be pricing in there's a little bit of extra weight that's a wear and tear on the person and the number of trips that need to be made with a truck. But the biggest thing is gonna be the tipping out at the landfill. So it's, I mean, it's a smaller component that they're pricing in for that piece.
Well, I guess if you
And I
guys.
guess I
Alright,
don't, but what I don't know, I mean, do you still want someone to be able to set out a garbage tag or garbage bag at the curb? Do you want, are you expecting them to have someone who's gonna go up to those folks that, we pick up at their garage?
So
Are
we
you
have
I don't
we
think
have a
that
lot
you're
of,
gonna
lot of
find very many
niceties
that you're
now
gonna
that
get
we
that.
might be losing, and I would hate to lose all that. And, I don't, we,
At what
we're
cost?
assuming
At
we're
what
gonna be
cost?
gaining something, and I'm not sure that we are.
Again, our service, I think, is impeccable. With that being said, at what cost? You know what I'm saying, when it becomes, at what cost do we have this service? There's a number of communities that haven't had spring cleanup for decades, and their communities are clean, you know what I'm saying? So I mean, what is it that we want here?
Well,
For right now, I guess we're looking at, for right now, going forward, I guess we're looking at having some type of, just having something on paper for the 35, 65, 95, whether we're gonna have something in 3-tier. Those are the questions that people are gonna have on Monday.
well, so you could say, okay, I would be in favor of the tiered. I would be in favor of an extra bag at a much higher cost on trash tag, if you're wanting my parameters. And then if there would be a cost for, I don't know, centralized, I would be in favor of a centralized spring cleanup, and then leaf pickup. That's, if we feel that leaf pickup's that big a deal. So that's what you could bid out on the, is it RFD, RPD? My hearing's not very well. What is it?
Request for proposals.
Oh, that's what it is. Thanks. RFP, thanks. That would be my parameters. I think we'd want a tiered program. I definitely think we want to have the option of an extra bag, but the cost should be much higher than the trash tag is now. And then you could do a centralized pickup on spring if you don't want to lose the spring cleanup, or fall cleanup, and then the leaf pickup, and let someone bid it, and we'll compare to what we're paying now. But, I don't want to.
What about recycling, John? Or that's added to the bill, but it's
That's
not
true.
run through the
That's
same thing, or is
another
it
issue.
run?
We're charged a,
We're charged.
We add it to our
and
bill, but if
so-
we did the RFP.
What about
we would
looking
not-
at
So what we tended, I don't know what every community does. The last town I was in had, we bid out our garbage pickup, and we had one hauler. And they gave us a fee structure on it, and then we added in our other costs that were being charged on a household basis. In our example, that's the
Okay,
the
that makes
recycling fee. So we then would bill the actual customers. We would get a bill from the hauler for the number of accounts that they were picking up and the size containers that they were picking up. We'd pay them out of the fees that we were then charging to the customers. So you don't get out of the business typically. You can just let that go out as a private piece, and then what you're gonna have from us is just the recycling fee that's charged on this water bill. You'd still have that $335, whatever it is. $365.
Right now.
So if we keep the solid waste hauling in-house, don't we ultimately have more control over the prices? If we went with an independent, couldn't they just jack the fees up in the future, so if they chose
So
to?
one of the concerns that you would have is the size of business that this is, and the amount of capital that goes into a startup on it. You can have one bid price that comes in for the original contract. When you go to bid out again, it becomes potentially harder for someone to come in and be competitive against the incumbent over time. And you may lose some pricing advantage over time. I mean, that's a potential risk that's out there.
What about if we, what if?
But you may still have good numbers over time too. There aren't any guarantees.
What about dumping we have no idea how much money we spend a year on spring cleanup and the leaves?
Spring cleanup, we use the charge for the community
We do name some trucks going into the landfill against the community project fee that were allowed by the Solid Waste Commission. We also keep track of our extra help that we hire through Manpower, Temp Associates, that type of thing. We keep track of how many man-hours and what the costs are that are paid for those people. So we have a spreadsheet that we keep track of from year to year as far as what we say that the citywide cleanup program is costing us.
Can we get some, get those figures next week?
Sure.
I'm just curious how much that amounts to. Maybe we could still find some places to meet in the middle to help out on some of this cost.
You spend about maybe 30,000 for temp labor,
Over a year's time, yeah.
and then you have your own staff that their time that's a little bit harder to cost out for how much they put in to the citywide cleanup, because you don't really have a great breakdown on that from there.
Well, I'd have to look at the table that we keep all the facts and figures in.
If you guesstimate, I mean, could you throw out a guesstimated figure on what
Right
it's
now?
called?
No, I wouldn't want to throw in
Okay,
a guesstimate
okay.
right now. Typically, we have either one or two of our full-time employees working in the citywide cleanup program beyond the first day. And then additionally, they have a helper with them on the truck picking up citywide cleanup. And it may take them, depends on what route we're on, but it may take them anywhere from 3 days to 5 days of work on a Monday's route or Tuesday's route or Wednesday's route to get through at one time and pick up the material that's been set out. And again, we limit the amount of material we take.
Okay.
But it varies. Varies from route to route. Certain routes put out more stuff than other routes do. And from year to year. There's some years that not much is put out, and other years there's a lot of stuff put out.
Okay. Annie, where are you at on this?
I am not comfortable with going out for bid on this. That being said, I understand the need for an answer of what we're gonna do as far as, are we gonna go out for bid or are we not? And then either way, we have to figure out the tier or, what we want it to be. And I think that's important for us to figure out as soon as possible, not 2 weeks from now, which would be our next time to discuss.
Okay. I just closed my computer. I was gonna open that up. But how is that reading on the, how is that set up? How is that reading on the thing? Is it just open for discussion for next week as well? Are you looking, has he got that open?
No,
It's just a
This
discussion.
is a
on it.
work session
that's
item.
just for today.
No, I'm
It's
talking
not-
about for next week.
It's not on there.
There's nothing on the
There's
agenda.
nothing on for discussion for next week?
No.
All right, I need to talk about it some more, or at least get some more information. I'd like the same information, I'd like the 3-tier information. And I'd like to hear from some more people on it. I'm not comfortable. The only thing I'm comfortable with is, I am cool with looking at all options, and I'm okay with an RFP. I don't feel like that would be putting us in a corner. I just think it's something that should have been looked at probably a long time ago. That's where I stand on it. And I'm not so precious with it. I don't feel like that if we go out and get one that we're automatically locked in where we have to take it. I don't feel that way. I understand it takes a lot of time, but I still don't feel that way.
Well, it's on the provider, it's on part of it. So. But if we were gonna do it on our own, in order to do an RFP, if we were doing it on our own, are we in agreement that we're looking at some sort of tiered pricing? in
Yes.
3 cans?
I think over around,
Three
yeah.
cans,
We're in
3 different
agreement on that.
prices.
And I
Okay.
like the idea of an additional bag.
And we're in agreement on an additional
Otherwise,
bag
they're just gonna throw
cost.
trash on their porch and in
Okay.
their yards again.
People already do that now.
Yeah. So
I
we're
see
in,
people throw bags
we're
out
in
with
a-
no tags all
we're
the
in
time.
agreement on
So that's
those two
besides. Well, I am not
parts.
so much.
somewhat,
but-
but we don't know what the cost would be yet, but we're in agreement on those 2 things. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Then the spring cleanup and the leaf thing would be something we'd have to,
I I want to see what the prices are, if he's gonna
Okay.
bring that back, so, all right, then nobody wants to pull the trigger on going after an RFP. You guys want to deal with what we've got at hand.
I love the
Cheers.
spring cleanup. I think it's a good way to keep stuff out of the landfill,
I-
recycle stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to decide these parameters, even if we were gonna do an RFP, is what Jim's saying, okay? So are we in agreement on those two things? And then we could ask, and see what would our tier pricing be? What would our extra bag pricing be versus an RFP?
Well, yeah, I mean, we would have to do that
I mean, it could be that
regardless.
they would come in and be $20 higher than than we would realize, oh, we really got a good deal here and not do that. So I don't know.
And it could be
There's no
that they
guarantee
don't,
a
that
private
they,
hauler's gonna be cheaper is what I'm trying
it
to
could
say.
be they underestimate how long it really takes to get through all our alleys and things, and then the next year they jack the price up on them.
But we have to decide, at least that's what I heard from you, Jim, right? We have to kind of decide what parts of the program we want to look at.
Yeah, he
You
wants to
can't
know where
go out for
equipment is.
service, you can't go out for an RFP unless you
Right.
can tell them what you want,
Can you take our trash?
so, yeah.
Well, then everybody's, we're
So
committed on what we want, three
what
tiers.
what do you need from us? What answers do you need from us tonight? What would make
We
your
want-
life easier?
We want information going forward with what three tiers is gonna look like on the trash, what it would look like with or without the, extra services, and with the trash bags. Is that correct?
You're looking for what? I'm sorry?
I'm looking at Dawn and Jim, and they look like they need a stiff martini.
What the pricing would be on a three-tier system, 35, 65,
What would be the
95.
suggested pricing, yeah?
Yeah, what would be the suggested price? What would it be with the trash bag, leaving it with for those that use the trash bag? And, also
What-
the number on what, spring cleaning, how much that's
Well,
running as average.
The trash tags, that's our own, we can decide that, there's not really a,
Well, we ought to have we ought to look at the cost of the leaf program too.
I mean, I don't know what else you want, Jim.
I really don't know what I'm supposed to give to you. I mean, I can give you a tiered, you can do any tiered structure, pretty close to any tiered structure you want. It's what are you comfortable with? I would say what makes the most sense is probably if you're doing a tiered on the three different sizes, 16, 19, 22, somewhere in that neighborhood.
okay?
And the problem that I'm gonna have is it's so different from what we have. All it is doing a guess on what you're gonna have for number of customers at the different levels.
Sure.
And we don't know what it'll be for signups, until you put it into play, and see what's happened with the number of signups. You don't know what that's gonna do for revenue, so you may have to adjust prices from immediately the next year. But a tiered, that's about the right type of spread to have between it. And I can tell you can't make a tiered work if you don't have the lower tier higher than where we are now. And so that's where I'm gonna say that's about the pricing structure that you'd be looking at,
Where would you say that the lower tier would have to be?
16. If
Is that-
we're currently 14,
We're right now at $14, that's the trash
And it's
and the recycling.
and it goes to 14.25 in
And it goes to
July.
$14.25 in
So I'm
July.
saying probably in that 16, 19, and 22 for the three sizes.
Is that like
That's-
really what you're comfortable with?
Yeah,
or-
and that's what I'm trying to say is comfort in terms of the difference in the price break. And I might be able to say 15, 15, 19, I don't know. I can look at a couple other communities and give some idea on that. But that doesn't say whether you still want to consider the idea of allowing someone to put out 1 or 2 kitchen bags and not have a 35-gallon container. There's
Right. So-
too many variables to be, you've, what the mayor put out for what he'd like to see for things is, there are too many variables involved in it to be able to say what will it
To
look
really,
like.
yeah.
Be-
Well, I
There's too
guess-
many moving components on that.
I guess as far as the tiered, that goes, the 16 and then moving on up would be a good place to start for that. And then if we're gonna keep the bags, we would do it with I guess, do we keep the tags? Is that something that's
Yeah,
with a much,
With a higher
You could
price.
potentially do that, and that's.
is that?
And I don't think that you have to have an answer or what those final, the
Numbers
16,
mean,
19, 22, if that's the right number, or if it's a little bit different from that. But that's gonna be ballpark of what you should be looking at, if that's what you're wanting to do.
Okay.
If you wanna have, an extra bag pickup, we can build that into the thought process. If you wanna have the kitchen bag as an alternative for it, we can do it, and we can put some ballpark numbers on them. But you have to have a commitment to what you wanna see. I think that's the bigger thing, is what is it that you're saying, this is the program that we wanna have? 'Cause all those other options, I mean, which ones are you gonna, do you wanna incorporate into what you're talking about?
Right.
You have too many if you have too many moving pieces
Makes
on a
it really-
major discussion, it gets hard to ever come to any decision.
Okay. So I guess as far as, I don't know if it's fair to say, the 3-tiered and additional bags only with a tag. Is that,
I'd like to see what that would look like, yes.
is that clear things up a little
I
bit?
mean, I can, and again, I think we can say that your generic pricing is probably gonna be what I said, but
Yeah.
I can look at a couple
But,
other
so either way,
towns.
it's gonna be $2 more to the residents, even if they go with this. with the
It's
small
gotta
tier.
be some, there's
Because of
gotta,
the
Increase,
cost-
yeah.
because of the capital outlay, right?
yeah.
Okay. Or you just leave it and let the next generation of council deal with it, but it ain't going away. So I think we need to deal with it. We made it a goal.
So did I hear you say the prices are going up July?
Yeah.
To 14.25.
25 cents. Okay, not the 225, okay.
No, and does it have to be 225 that you see or another $1.75? I don't know if it has to be quite that much, but it has to be something. I mean, you can't work
Well,
without it.
Yeah, and also you made an excellent point with, you know, if everyone then decides that they're only gonna go for the 35 because they think they can save money or whatever, is that enough of an increase to cover the,
Well, I mean, if that's what you want to do, though, you can. I mean, again, as a council, if you want to say, I mean, because you're as a group are the policymakers.
yeah.
And if you say that you want to see that spread between, a significant price spread between the 35, 65, 95, because you're trying to force people to recycle and reduce the amount of waste they have, you can do that. That's a policy thing that you can set by your pricing structure. So that's where, John, as you say, you want to keep the people who are going to the 35 gallon at where they're currently at, you can do that and do another.
Well, no, I think there's a compromise there, is I guess what I was getting at. Maybe the people who want to go to 35, maybe they pay $1.50 more, and the people that want the 65, and I don't want to say force them, but coax them into recycling, go into a bigger can. I think most people that are buying bag tags now, they would realize cost savings, even if you went, say you went $15 on the 35, and you went $20 or $19 on the 65 and $23 on the 95, but you also make the bag tags more expensive. So the driver is, okay, well, you know what, I'm still buying bag tags, maybe I should just go with the 65-gallon can. That's what I was looking at. I know we can't give a 35-gallon can to residents and keep the price the same. That can't be done, but does it have to be $2.25 and then the person that gets the 65-gallon can gets it for the same price? That doesn't make any sense to me. You know, we should be.
No, I think we're all in agreement on that as far
Right,
as that goes.
right.
So a pricing structure that looks at a tiered, with the option to put out an extra bag for the
At a
occasional,
higher cost.
that has to be at a higher cost, enough that you have some incentive to try to, if you're
To recycle
gonna be, well, and
Yeah.
you also, somebody who's using it consistently, you wanna get up to the 65 gallon.
Yeah, there's no way, even with my family too, there's no way I'd be in a 35-gallon can. It's not gonna
We'd
happen.
be at a 95 and a 65.
So,
You can get a framework of what that would potentially look like. Do you still want to have the other piece that she wants, where someone can set out, instead of having a 35-gallon, set out a kitchen bag?
I think it would be very rare. I think it would be for a very short period of time. Disabled, I'm thinking of disabled people, someone that maybe had a knee surgery, maybe had a surgery, and then they would move past that phase of life, and then they would find somebody. Sometimes people may not know their neighbors. That sounds bad. We would hope that they would, but they may not know anyone to take their trash to the curb for them or to pick it up. I think it would be a very small number, and I would like to explore that option for that very small number of people.
Implementing a program, you should, if you're making this change, you should do the whole transition at once.
yep.
As opposed to having a piece of customers that you're gonna have in flux for 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, or whatever it is.
Because sure as the sun's gonna rise tomorrow, you're gonna have someone abuse that kitchen bag plan. In my opinion.
I agree, John. It's not foolproof, but I work with a lot of disabled folks, and my goal is to try to keep them living independently in their own home as long as I can.
I got you.
Those are
So-
things to move forward, you have to have an answer
Then
to
you
what
could
you're
ask for the
doing.
you could ask for the medical.
Okay.
If that's the case, then you put it with the
And they
medical
probably
thing.
wouldn't have used it.
Yeah,
So you guys want to move forward with getting some figures on the 3 tiers?
please.
Whatever else you come up with. I'm just not comfortable with any of it, I guess, man, so I don't know.
It'll be a work session item in 2 weeks. It gives you plenty of time to have more comments and
All
more
right.
thoughts on it.
All right. Let's do number 4, so we can get out of here. Appointments. We've got Dwight Mulch for the Airport Authority. James?
It's listed still, you tabled Elizabeth last time. Have you had any conversations with Elizabeth in the last week, Mayor?
Yeah. But I mean, not that I want to talk about,
Is she still,
no. So as of right now, what I would suggest, me personally, is that
has she formally withdrawn her name?
No.
Okay.
Then we would, either way, we have to actively seek out a female,
You should.
yes. So I would move that, since she has not given a formal,
Which I'm going to try to obtain
okay.
Withdrawal.
before the end of this week,
Okay.
but I
Until
don't have-
then, it would be approving.
The process, from what happened last week, Elizabeth was not particularly excited about how the conversation went, and I think that it created some concerns for her whether she wanted to keep her name in. That's about the best I can tell. She had her conversations with you, so. And that's why I'm not sure whether she is withdrawn or not.
She hasn't, and as of right now, I would advise the council, I would ask that we would hold this off on this appointment up until I get something written from the young lady that was going to be appointed to that, and then after that to reach back out for up to 3 months to see if we can find somebody. That would be my suggestion on the way to go. And at a minimum, at least table this until I get something written from this young lady.
Yeah. Well, the information we have, I will say first of all to staff, the information we have in the work session, as far as the structure of the boards, that helps, because we want to be balanced, but if you don't know who's on the board, typically what we've gotten is just this person's up for the appointment. So I do like having that information, and that could serve us as a guideline going forward. I don't want to, I'm with you, Shane, I don't want to freeze anybody out, but at the same token, I also don't want to lose a good dedicated servant, I mean, that Dwight's been. However, if we're required by the state to achieve gender balance and go through a 3-month process, and she's still interested, I don't see where we have any choice but to go ahead and appoint her. You know, obviously, she cares about the town, she's volunteered for a couple of the boards. So that's where I'm at. I hate to lose Dwight, but at the same token, there is not a gender balance, and we are required by the state to have a gender balance.
I just want to say for the record too, this lady that did apply for this appointment, she's been actively involved in other boards as well. She does care about the community. She's an outstanding member of the community. I just want that stated for the record.
Yeah. But if we want to table it till you talk to her formally, that would be fine, and then we have some other appointments there that looks like we don't have that particular issue on, so.
I would appreciate that. Mayor Pro Tem, are you fine with that?
Yep, I'm fine.
Peanut butter?
That's good. I just think we could be maybe a little bit more transparent in the appointment of people in the future. I think Dwight didn't know when his term was up, and then he was told, you're out, and it caused a little bit of hard feelings. I think maybe we could be a little bit more formal in disclosing that in the future.
That would be on the board, though. That wouldn't be necessarily on the council to go through those board appointments and find out when their
think
terms
that,
are due. That would be the.
I think Mary and them have known when all those vacancies come up, when the
With-
terms end.
It's usually when somebody's term
Yep.
is coming up toward the end, usually the
Yeah.
board will.
Well, but let me ask you how that
He
works.
said it got
'cause-
busy and it dropped his mind.
Well, how's that work though? So the person in charge knows whose term's up, so they're supposed to notify them. Do they know when the term's up? And do they know that there's someone interested in the appointment? I don't know any of those things.
When people.
How's that work?
When people sign up for a board, they don't own that position, so it's.
Sure, I
it's-
got
it's-
that.
No, I'm not saying this to you, I'm saying this to
Yeah.
people who listen. When people sign up for a board, they don't own that position, it's a board. So it's not like we're hiring somebody, this is people in the community that want to be board members, that want to be involved. They have terms. Some terms are for 2 years, some are for 3, some are for 4. There's no guarantee whatsoever that after you do a term, that you automatically get re-upped. You do your term and then you fill out other paperwork or whatever. So I just think that, first off, we just need to get this mindset that it's assumed or presumed or whatever, that after you get an appointment, that you can stay on that board. That's not the case. That's not the way it's supposed to be. It's worked out that way sometimes because on some boards, it's hard to get people involved to get out and participate. So therefore, we've had to leave people on certain boards. But I just think people need to be mindful that when you do apply for a board, that after your term is up, there's no guarantee. And in most cases, there's going to be somebody that's applying. We're going to keep it moving. You know what I'm saying? We're going to keep allowing people to get in on those boards. So I don't know where that kind of got lost in the translation over the last few years, but as people do apply for boards, it's a one-time deal. It really is. And then you move around. Now, yes, you can say, well, I know somebody's been on board for 3 terms. That does happen that way sometimes, but that is not the norm. That's not the way it's supposed to work.
Actually, most of our committees, we struggle to find people to.
That's,
to
yeah,
be
I was
on.
just gonna say that, that's
Yeah.
why,
And,
because.
and I think we've got to
That's the reason why,
understand
though.
too, any of these boards are the same as you on council. I mean, these are, we're all members of a community and all trying to do our best to do the best by the community. The Airport Authority Board isn't any different than council or any of these other positions. You're coming in, making a policy decision for what is in the community interest. I know that you had a presentation last week. Dwight has an awful lot of experience, but that isn't necessary. You don't have to have that. No boards have a requirement for that. Is it beneficial? Yeah. Is it a requirement? No, it's not a requirement to be on council to have that experience with
I
city
have zero
finances or
count-
anything
zero
else.
credit. Yeah, I knew.
It has to do with a
Council,
passion for the community. And, I mean, we do have people who stay on boards for an awful long period of time, and where we can, that's great for us, but we also have turnover in other boards. Some of them are a lot of turnover, and regardless of what it is, those that are, we have a lot of staff with them working with them, and we just have, where that happens, where you have more turnover, there may be more time that's spent on getting people up to speed on issues. But that's just the nature of it, and it's how the system works.
Well,
We
yeah,
are a community.
And I think, I echo what Linda said. I think because you have 3 new council members, some of this stuff is, even though it's not new, we don't do it every day.
Right on.
But we didn't have any of that information before about board structure.
Sure.
Or about who was, was there more than one person that was wanting in and there's only one spot? We don't have it. We're just, here's the board appointments and yay or nay. And so I would agree with you. The information presented today was outstanding on the work session, because it shows, okay, this person's on, they're coming up, they'd like to get back on, here's the structure of the board. But if there's somebody else on, okay, then it's time for them to go. I think where the problem came up on this one is because he wasn't aware that his term was up. And they haven't had a lot of interest from time to time, and so it's just been kind of a re-up. And he is a very qualified individual, and it's nice to have that experience, but at the same time, we are required to have some balance. But having the structure of the board in front of us helps make that decision. We didn't have that before, so we've learned, so.
Yeah, and echo what John said, it's a learning curve, and I was speaking to someone the other day about this topic, and I said, oh, this would be a perfect topic for Citizens Academy, and let people know, because that was people interested in the community, interested in doing something, but maybe not the full commitment of city council. Maybe they've been interested in serving on a board, so I thought that would be perfect to have just a little half an hour to let them know about all the boards, and hey, when you're done with Citizens
Right on.
Academy, you can
So I
do
think-
this.
so I think
We got
that's
an
where-
opening.
Maybe we need to, yeah.
That's where
Good
some
point.
of the pushback was. So,
Have a little board education time. We'll make sure we get that in. And if something else pops up that you guys see that needs a little bit more attention, where we're not being as transparent, make sure you bring that to the table. We don't want everyone to come off that we're
Yep.
not coming off that way. I think we're to a close then for tonight. Are we good?
I'm good.
Mr. Teslin, any closing remarks? Peanut butter, anything on the way out?
No, enjoy this hot weather. Snake Alley was painful. I asked several of the riders how was it, and they said brutal.
Brutal. That's what they love. That's why they come back here. Mr. Billups?
Hey, I take my hat off to the Parks Department. They were a shining jewel for our community Memorial Day. Every park I went to, the place, everybody's using them. They look good, so it's a lot of work, but what a great amenity. So please pass my compliments.
And I echo that, and I'm so grateful, and a lot of people were actually jumping up and down, almost in tears. The drinking fountain was working at Sunnyside School. They were really excited. Someone fixed it. It was very exciting.
Yeah, that's cool.
Shane's gonna go
Did you,
check it out.
did you come down about the trash can? All right, I want to thank you. I don't know who your name is, but I know I've seen you before, I've met you. But anyways, I want to thank you for coming down, and you sat patiently and listened to all this, but you came down because you care, and you're the only one that came down tonight for the work session. So thank you for coming down and being patient. You didn't even get a chance to say anything, but I sure appreciate you coming down, and if you got anything you want to say to any of us, I'm sure you can rip-roar into us on the way out, but thank you for that. Just want to say again, Mr. Billups about the Sturzings, I tried them for myself since he didn't share with me at the last meeting. I didn't get a chance to open these up, but I did get a taste of them. They're still good.
That's still good.
They're still good. They're still Sturzings. I'm not going to get the extra fat meat on the side that I used to look forward to from eating them, but they're still Sturzings. Don't stop eating them. They're delicious, and you can only get them in this area. So I'm not going to eat them now. I'm going to wash my hands first. I'm a germaphobe.
Oh,
But
yeah.
then I'm
Thanks
going
for
to tear
not
this
sharing.
bag up. Also, Alexander didn't share his popcorn with me yesterday. I don't know if he shared that with you, but he was really, really rude, and I just wanted that documented for the record. Also, that the Snake Alley Film Festival is coming up. We've got some celebrities that are coming in. Brian O'Halloran's going to be here from Clerks. It's going to be a good time. I think he's bringing a couple friends with him. So that's coming up June 23rd, I believe, is the Saturday night, I believe it starts. But if you don't have anything going, come on down and support that. It's going to be a fantastic time. They're going to have film directors and producers and stuff from all over the place descended up on our beautiful town. And if you haven't had a chance to check that out, you really need to come and be a part of that. So that's going to be coming up here pretty soon. I think that I'll leave the rest for Annie.
All right, yeah, and actually, it's a 4-day event. Starts Wednesday.
Yes.
SNAF does. Wednesday afternoon and goes till Saturday. So that's always a good time. Yeah, it was hot for the bikes.
Word is you're going to be in one of the movies.
Oh, yes, I am. There's going to be, I'm going to be in one of the movies.
Which one?
It's a
It's
surprise.
a surprise.
Well, I won't know which one to watch.
You have to come to watch them all. No. So, yep, I don't have anything else.
Okay. Point guard.
Don't have anything.
Steph? All right. If you wonder where Steph is, she's back there recording. She does a lot of things, so. All right, if there's nothing else, thank you, guys. Have a good evening. All right.